and welcome to the podcast of Loughborough University's Institute of Advanced Studies, a podcast where our international fellows discuss the most pressing issues of today that we're all facing and share their exciting research ideas. We hope you enjoy today's talk. Thank you for tuning in.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today. Let me introduce myself. I am Nataliia Tofan. I am a car research fellow working with David Stansel's research group. And today I would like to take you on a journey from a pharmacology lab back in Odessa through a decade of clinical research to the question that now drives everything what I do. What does it actually take to restore physiological balance? And the title says, beyond pharmacotherapy. I mean, is that quite literally? Doesn't work. Okay, so we often treat diet, exercise, and sleep as separate targets. We advise on the diet, we prescribe exercise, we normalize sleep, but the body doesn't work in separate targets. It is in separate mechanisms. It is a system. And here's the question that I want to leave with you today. Does a fit body means a healthy metabolism? And here is the roadmap of our today's lecture. So we will have 5 areas with you today. It is a research journey. Then we will go to cardiometabolic disease framework. Then our main focus for today, sleep, which will be followed by diet and exercise. And finally, we will go to systems integrated approach. And this won't be just a passive lecture. I will ask you to participate if you're comfortable. We will have some interactive elements. So we'll ask you to answer the questions and even to move. Okay, and let me tell you briefly about my educational research and teaching background. So I was trained as a physician at Odessa National Medical University, and I have finished my PhD in clinical pharmacology back in Odessa in Ukraine. And my career officially started in 2015 when I participated in Chronix RD project, which was a collaboration between Romania, Moldova, and Ukraine. I participated here as a researcher in genetics laboratory. I also have an experience of teaching. I was teaching an internal medicine course for medical students for more than 10 years in university clinics of Odessa National Medical University. So here you can see our academic clinical team. And this feature, it grounded my research in clinics. And I participated in several conferences. It was Conference of European Society of Hypertension and Korean Society of Cardiology, and received several grants, research grant, accommodation grant, travel grant, and conference participation grant. So on the picture on the left, you may see a poster presentation in Milan, which was supported by travel grant, and picture on the left shows oral presentation in Seoul, supported by a travel grant. And for this year's I published several papers. You can see here the main publications. So it was pharmacotherapy in arterial hypertension, pharmacotherapy efficacy according to laser correlation spectroscopy, obesity and treatment response, and cardiovascular risk and environmental pollution. Let me go to my PhD research overview. My PhD pursued a specific scientific research question: how do different antihypertensive drugs combinations affect not only blood pressure, but glucose metabolism, lipid metabolism, homeostasis in elderly patients with hypertension and coronary heart disease? And the novelty, it was combination of clinical patient-based data and homeostatic laboratory assessment. We used a method called laser correlation spectroscopy, which I will cover a little bit later. And the study design, we enrolled 132 patients. We took the blood serum before and after pharmacotherapy. And all the patients were divided into 4 groups. The group with uncomplicated hypertension and coronary heart disease, group with complicated hypertension, coronary heart disease, group with coronary heart disease only, and a control group without any coronary vascular disease. And we studied standard clinical and laboratory data, which you can see here. It was blood pressure measurement, heart rate, cholesterol level, glucose, creatinine, and microalbuminuria, which show us kidney function, and prothrombin index, which shows us coagulation function. And based on this, we calculated some clinical and laboratory data, but we also have used some special biophysical methods which made this study distinctive, hopefully. And the drugs which were used in this study, these are antihypertensive standard drugs, which you may see here, but let me emphasize that bisoprolol, it also has anti-ischemic drug, which dilates coronary vessels. In the pomade, despite it's diuretic, but it also decreases blood pressure. And azoxybate dinitrate, it's vasodilator. And aspirin, it actually belongs to non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs groups, but in the low dosages, it can prevent formation of thrombi. So 8 combinations of these drugs were used for this study. And this is a special method which was used, laser correlation spectroscopy, which is laboratory biophysical method. And it allows to assess spectral characteristics of fluctuations in the blood serum according to size of the particles, based on the size of the particles. So it measures distributions of the particles in the blood serum, in any biological liquid. And the range which it detects is from 1 to 10,000 nanometers. And let me tell that this method, it's not only allows us to estimate molecular composition of the blood, but it helps us to estimate how this different molecular interactions, and it also helps us assess. It is sensitive in assessment of treatment efficacy. So there were studies which showed its efficacy in estimation of treatment in cancer patients. And what do we receive as an output when you use this method? So you may see, you will receive a histogram which shows you distributions of particles based on their size. And on x-axis, you will see their relative contribution. And on y-axis, you may see the size of particles in nanometers. So you may see dynamic of these shifts of these particles contributions during pharmacotherapy, for example. And as you may see, each zone corresponds to different particles. So we may see what is happening at the level of albumins, globulins, lipoproteins, and immune complexes of different sizes. And then we have a software, special software, which processes this data. And at the end, we receive 3 main types of metabolic shifts, which you may see on the right. Hydrolytic, which shows us inflammation, disease progress, breakdown. Anabolic type, which shows us recovery and synthetic processes. And mixed, which kind of imbalanced type. And each of them has subtypes. So totally, for estimation, you will receive 8 homeostatic shifts. And the key findings are depicted, which are depicted here. So the blood pressure, normal target blood pressure within the normal ranges were achieved in all the groups. But this treatment wasn't safe. It wasn't physiologically natural because in patients with complicated hypertension and coronary heart disease, we revealed temporary renal failure. And what is important that this finding, we revealed it before it was clinically manifested, before standard clinical markers such as creatinine level was increased. By means of LCS, we detected these changes, homeostatic changes, And these shifts in particle distribution, they correlated with renal failure markers. And we understood that effective treatment may still induce hidden homeostatic disbalance. So it doesn't fully restores homeostatic balance. And that's why I undertook post-PhD research, which where I wanted to study how obesity affects treatment efficacy. So the hypothesis was that obese and non-obese patients will show different response to the treatment, both before pharmacotherapy and after pharmacotherapy. So we enrolled patients with and without obesity, and all of them had hypertension, coronary heart disease. And we used standard clinical methods and LCS, which showed us molecular profile. And what did we receive? For these two groups, the same treatment was used, but and again, the target blood pressure within normal rates was achieved. But we found that molecular shifts were different. Molecular shifts shown by LCS before and after the treatment. And the most interesting finding is that the patient without obesity, they developed temporary renal failure, while those who had obesity, they didn't have any renal injury. It was an interesting finding. LCS helped us to shed light on this, to understand molecular mechanisms, because in those who received treatment, in those patients without obesity, it's activated inflammatory shifts in intoxication-directed inflammatory shifts. But in patients with obesity, anabolic shifts were prevailing. As you see, clinical outcomes seem to be similar, but molecular shifts different. And it is reflected in clinical manifestations, in symptoms. And this was a turning point when we understood that pharmacotherapy, it may optimize clinical outcomes, but it doesn't restore homeostatic balance. So that's why it raised a research question, which I'm pursuing now: how this homeostatic balance can be restored by means of lifestyle factors modification. And here, this lifestyle, diet, exercise, and sleep, as I come to believe, it's not something which you may have alongside medicine, but I believe it's medicine itself. And my path to Loughborough wasn't straightforward. I was dismissed in 2024 from a position of a lecturer in Odessa National Medical University because of the war. And I was supported by CARA Fellowship, Council for At-Risk Academics, which enabled me to continue my research here at Loughborough. So I'm grateful to CARA for their continuing support. Thank you very much. And I'm also grateful to Professor Stencil, and thank you very much to him. He works in School of Sports, Exercise and Medicine, and Health Sciences, and his research areas perfectly fit research questions which I'm pursuing. And let me show you what research projects are ongoing here at Loughborough University. And one of them is almost finished. So the first, it is systematic review, where we want to find out how sleep extension. So what is sleep extension? It is intentional prolongation of sleep duration. You sleep longer than usual intentionally. How does sleep extension affect blood pressure? And how does it affect glucose metabolism, depending on sleep duration and depending on presence of cardiovascular risk? So it's now registered on Prospera, and title and abstract screening is ongoing. The second one is narrative review, where we studied interactions between sleep, appetite regulation, and exercise, and in adults with cardiometabolic disease. And now this is completed for now, ready for submission. And some of the core ideas which I will share with you today is taken from this narrative review, are taken, sorry. And the third is data-driven analysis, where I study actigraphy data and sleep diaries. And in this study, we want to understand how does exercise affect sleep quality, sleep duration, and circadian patterns in individuals with obesity. And let us go to scientific context. Let us talk about cardiometabolic disease. So cardiometabolic disease, it's not a single disease. It's a group of diseases which are connected with the same pathogenesis. These are interconnected. And as you may see here, it doesn't happens at once. There are stages. It is a cascade of different stages, precursors, which will finally lead to cardiometabolic disease. And at the very base, at the very top, you may see lifestyle drivers: unhealthy diet, physical inactivity, poor sleep, and smoking, which will lead to metabolic dysregulations such as visceral adiposity, insulin resistance, and inflammation. And if not corrected, it will progress to cardiometabolic risk factors, elevated blood pressure, dyslipidemia. Dyslipidemia is the prevalence of such called bad lipoproteins, lipoproteins of low density, and hyperglycemia. It's a high level of glucose. And if not corrected, it will end up in cardiometabolic disease. You may see that several diseases included into this umbrella term, such as type 2 diabetes, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, obesity, and hypertension. And unfortunately, then you will have to deal with complications. Here I showed only cardiovascular complications, such as myocardial infarction, stroke, and heart failure. Our study lies into the very top. So I believe that it's easier to prevent, to interfere at the very beginning of this cascade, at the stage of lifestyle drivers, than to deal with cardiovascular outcomes, for example. Okay, and here you may see this major modifiable cardiometabolic risk factors. These are grouped into three columns: lifestyle factors, metabolic factors, and clinical factors, and compiled from different recommendations, different guidelines of European Society of Hypertension, European Society of Cardiology, and British recommendations, NICE guidelines. And they repeat the scheme which I showed you just now. These first two columns, lifestyle factors and metabolic factors. But in the first column, lifestyle factors, you may see sleep, poor sleep. So poor sleep is recognized as a risk factor of cardiometabolic disease according to guidelines. And there are also some risk factors which cannot be modified, such as age. So this risk increases with age. It is sex, it is higher in men. And in women, it will also be increased after menopause. Genetical predisposition is well known, and some ethnicities have baseline higher cardiovascular risk. All these factors incorporated into prediction models in risk calculators. And now it is our first interactive element, as I promised. There will be some interactive elements. Before we start, please, I want to emphasize that BMI, it's a screening tool. It's not a diagnostic criteria. We cannot assess if someone has obesity based on BMI only. So you may scan this QR code if you are comfortable, and it will take you to NHS BMI calculator. You need to know your weight and height, and it will give you your BMI. And on the right, you can see WHO BMI classification, and you can see to which range you fall. But let me clarify that even if an individual falls in normal weight, it doesn't mean that his cardiovascular risk is low, because he may still have visceral adiposity, and he might still have high cardiovascular risk. Why? This is such called phenomenon TOFI, thin outside, fat inside, or metabolically obese normal weight. When the person has normal weight, but he has visceral adiposity. So what is visceral adiposity? Why it is so have such adverse effects? Let us discuss it. So to assess adiposity, to confirm it, first one need to go for measurements, for anthropometric measurements. And this will like measurements of waist circumference, waist to hip ratio, waist to height ratio. This will give us abdominal obesity. It is fat, combination of visceral fat and subcutaneous fat. But for deeper assessment, for proper assessment, you should go. You will be advised to go for more precise methods such as DEXA scan, bioimpedance, or computer tomography, which will show you visceral obesity. Visceral obesity, so this fat tissue which surround our inside the abdominal cavity, surround inner organs. And why do we emphasize to confirm if the person has or doesn't have visceral adiposity tissue? Because it is the actual cardiovascular risk factor. It's a metabolically active endocrine tissue which produces free fatty acids and pro-inflammatory cytokines, and it will cause metabolic disbalance. It will cause chronic inflammation. It will cause insulin resistance, and will further may progress to cardiometabolic disease. So what you will produce and where they are is more important than how much fat you have. This is the simple highlight for this slide. And let us go to the next risk factor, which is hypertension. It is nice classification accepted in the UK. So still the readings above 140 and 90 considered as abnormal. But to confirm this diagnosis, you need to do a BPM, which is ambulatory blood pressure monitoring, which is measurement of blood pressure for 24 hours. It is a gold standard in the clinics, but you also may measure it by yourself at home, HBPM, home blood pressure monitoring. And you need to take readings twice for at least 4 days. Or you may go to your GP and he will do the measurements, but pay attention that he should take at least 2 readings if the first reading is about 140, 90. To measure it correct. Why it's important? Because here's one of my favorite slides. I wanted to meet these guys, Tom and Bob. And you may see that Tom does everything wrong what could be done while he measures blood pressure. He sits in a banded position. He's smoking, talking. He has worn cuff on the sweater, and his arm is unsupported. His legs are crossed, and what is happening? His reading is 148.94. While look at Bob, he works at Loughborough University, and he knows how to measure blood pressure properly. He sits straight, and he has rested very well for at least 5 minutes. And he's not talking. His cuff is worn on the bare arm, and he on the heart level, his forearm is supported. His legs are not crossed, and of course he will take several measurements. And his reading is 120.76. It is showed recent evidence showed that improper measurement can overestimate blood pressure, systolic blood pressure, up to 12 millimeters. Okay, and now I want you to raise hands. How many of you been measured blood pressure like Tom? Has anyone? No? I know that in Loughborough University, everyone know how to do it properly. Okay, let's talk about initial management of hypertension. So, and here's what now NICE guidelines in UK, they match with European guidelines. If an individual has low cardiovascular risk and blood pressure below 150/95, of course, an assessment will be required, but then lifestyle intervention only is recommended. So there is no need for pharmacotherapy in this case if blood pressure is controlled. But of course, if it is a higher risk of blood pressure about 150/95 or systematic hypertension, you need to prescribe pharmacotherapy. So not all the patients require pharmacological treatment if blood pressure is controlled. And let us look at cardiovascular risk estimation. It depends on the region where someone lives. And depending on this, there are different risk calculators. So in UK, here GP use QRisk3 calculators, while in Europe it is SCORE2, and in USA it is PREVENT. And UK, as you can see on the map of Europe, partly Africa and partly Asia, you may see that UK is in the low risk zone. But doesn't mean that the person who leads unhealthy lifestyle will have low risk. No, first individual risk doesn't match with population risk. So this is main message behind this slide. And to estimate cardiovascular risk in clinics, your GP will use QRisk3, which is NHS approved QRisk3 calculator. And he will use such variables like demographical, age, sex, and ethnicity, and clinical measurements such as blood pressure, cholesterol, and BMI, and your medical history of smoking, diabetes, and your family history of cardiovascular diseases. This risk allows you to estimate. This risk calculator allows to estimate 10-year cardiovascular risk. And how do you think, what is missing from this model, from the previous? You wanted to? Yes, if you know your cholesterol, yes, now you know your BMI. If you know your blood pressure, yes, you may estimate your risk using this QRisk calculator. So, and I want to ask you, what do you think is missing from this model? Sleep. Yeah. Yes, bravo. Yes. So why did I entitle this heading like overlooked pillar? Why is it overlooked? So the recommended duration is 7 to 9 hours per night, and short sleep is defined as less than 7 hours per night. And unfortunately, short sleep is rather prevalent. Not only in the UK, it's around 40%, but worldwide, its prevalence goes up to 40%. And sleep disorders such as obstructive sleep apnea, OSA, and insomnia, they commonly coexist with cardiometabolic disease, with cardiovascular disease, with diabetes, and obesity. So look at this prevalence, up to 90% in obesity. This association will be happening, and the main point here, this doesn't want to go. The main point here is that there is a gap between evidence, but because as we seen with you, that sleep is recognized in guidelines as a risk factor, but it isn't included in a risk calculator in clinical practice. So this gap appears between evidence and practice. And now our other exit poll, I want you to raise your hands. How many of you sleep less than 6 hours this night? Hey, hear that. Tomorrow. I know about you. Okay, 6 to 7 hours. Okay. 7 to 9 hours recommended range. Oh, very nice to see that there are many people and more than 9 hours. Someone is sleeping so much. Now, okay. And I want you to keep your number in your mind. At the end, we will estimate your cardiovascular risk. Okay, and now let us show why what does short sleep does to cardiovascular system, how it affects it, what negative impact does it have. So as you may see, it will cause increase of blood pressure and heart rate and sympathetic activation. What does it mean? So sympathetic system will cause activation of the system will cause release of stress hormones, cortisol, noradrenaline into blood. And also inflammatory response, you may see here IL-6, CRP, and F-alpha. These are inflammatory proteins which will trigger uh, inflammation process. And the short sleep not only has negative impact on cardiovascular regulation, but also it has negative impact for our metabolic health because as is shown in studies, many studies and meta-analysis. So it will affect glucose regulation. It will increase insulin resistance and fasting glucose as well as postprandial or post-meal glucose. And it will disrupt appetite regulation. It will increase ghrelin and suppress leptin, which will lead to increased appetite and preference for high-calorie foods. So as you see, it's fortunately it's associated in many studies with impaired glucose metabolism, increased energy intake, and insulin resistance. And what is happening is the vicious cycle of short sleep. This slide is entitled because short sleep will lead to fatigue, which will then cause reduced physical activity. And reduced physical activity will result in impaired metabolic control, which will further cause poor sleep quality. And as you can see, this self-reinforcing cycle will be happening. So how can we break this cycle? Can anything be done? So can sleep extension or intentional prolongation of sleep duration help and improve cardiometabolic health? And most evidence says that mostly yes, but with some nuances. So sleep extension of duration 50 to 70 minutes per night had a robust effect for blood pressure reduction in most of the trials, but when we talk about metabolism, not all of the studies showed improvements, but some studies showed that insulin resistance was decreasing and fasting insulin as well as appetite and energy intake was reduced. For example, the SALIS study, 2022, it showed that energy intake was reduced for 270 kilocalories without any diet, without physical exercise, just by expanding sleep. And so it has beneficial effects, but for full picture, we should also look at the studies which doesn't show any beneficial effect. It is a recent study by Bills in 2026, which showed that sleep extension didn't cause any change in insulin sensitivity. And the author suggested that it could happen because the amount of sleep was insufficient and the duration of intervention was not long enough. And baseline metabolic status, they suggested it also affects how effective sleep extension for cardiometabolic outcomes. And also pay attention that the authors claim themselves that half of participants didn't increase sleep duration more than 7 hours. So half of the participants didn't achieve this sleep increasing of sleep duration. Okay, and now let's look at shared pathways between exercise, sleep, and appetite. So exercise affects both sleep and appetite. And for sleep, when we look at sleep column, we may see that it will improve sleep quality, sleep efficiency, and even some studies show that it may support circadian alignment. And for appetite, yes, there are also many studies which shows that exercise will increase satiety signals, appetite regulating hormones, which will lead to increase of short-term appetite, a decrease, sorry, which will suppress short-term appetite and will improve long-term appetite regulation. So it has positive impact for exercise, has positive impact for sleep and appetite regulation. And now, if you're comfortable, we have here a small break. We will break up sitting. I wanted to ask if you're comfortable to join, to stand down. who wants, because just to motivate you, interrupting, there was a Dunstan study in 2012 who showed that interrupting sitting every 20 minutes for 2 minutes only with light intensity activity, even for 1 day, it significantly improved postprandial glucose and insulin level. So nobody is happy to. Thank you very much. So I want you to roll your shoulders back and forth several times, and I want you to raise your shoulders up and down several times. Just drop them, and now I want you to rotate your neck side to side, just to release neck muscles, which may be strained after sitting at the desk. And now I want you to stretch your left hand with your right wrist. You may raise on your toes and stretch, do the good stretching. And now your right hand with your left wrist. Stretch it, please. Okay. And now I want you to rotate side to side with the relaxed hands, just freely rotating, looking where, and the hands are relaxed. Activities. Transfers to objects. Okay, thank you very much. So now you have done something measurable and good for metabolic health. And you not only done this, you have put evidence into practice, because we have evidence of all, not 20 minutes, but maybe 20 minutes next time. Okay, so and here is the core of the research, which I am doing, core concept of the research about the sleep exercise appetite interaction. And in the narrative review, we have found out that most of the studies, in most of the studies, only one or two or three legs of this triangle are studied. For example, exercise and appetite, sleep and appetite, exercise and sleep. But only a handful of studies enrolled all three of them. And even these handful studies, they show that sleep can modulate how effective exercise is and how well appetite is regulated. And there's an obvious evidence gap in such studies which enroll all these three, not enroll, which captivate all these three legs, arms, sorry. So this gap, this is what precisely our future research, hopefully it's going to address this gap. And now let's go to the diet. So we can see here two evidence-based dietary approach to stop hypertension and Mediterranean diet. And both of them are robust evidence-based, and they're similar. Looks like they're similar because both of them are whole food based and with high fiber content and with minimally processed food. But DASH diet, it is low in sodium and it focuses on fat reduction, while Mediterranean diet reduces it doesn't reduce anything, vice versa, it increases unsaturated fat. You can see olive oil, which has omega-9, and you can see here fish and nuts, which rich in omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. And you may see here wine and alcohol and ask me what it is doing here. Yes, but now it is limited according to recommendation. Fortunately or unfortunately, it is limited. The intake of alcohol should be limited and ideally to abstinence. Now, our next interactive elements, there are two plates, and one of this plate is based on DASH diet. One of this plate is based on Mediterranean diet. And I want you to raise your hands who of you would choose menu A. Was the second B was and okay, and so raise your hands who would choose menu B. And I hope it's not because of the wine. This. Okay, so menu A, it's diet based on DASH ingredients, nutrients, and menu B, it is based on uh, a Mediterranean diet. Which of them is better for your cardiometabolic health? Both of them have shared positive effects for both of them reduce blood pressure, reduce inflammation, improve lipid profile, and increase your glucose regulation. And both of them, by attention, recommended as a first-line dietary approach in recommendations by European Society of Hypertension. But for DASH diet, it has strongest evidence for blood pressure reduction. So the study by Sinai showed this. And Mediterranean diet has the strongest evidence for cardiovascular disease prevention. The big study PREDIMED showed that it may reduce cardiovascular risk by 30%. So, and the main message behind this slide is dietary patterns, and how consistently you follow them is what will actually drive your cardiometabolic health, not single ingredients themselves. And now the end is a promise to you. Let's calculate your cardiometabolic risk. I want you to answer yes or no. Do you sleep 7-9 hours? Are you physically active most of the days? And is your diet consistently balanced? And if you receive 0, 1, only 1 yes or no yeses, yes at all, it means that you have high probability of having high cardiovascular risk. And if your answer is if you have 2 yes answers, you're doing well in 2 pillars. But if you have 3, you're managing all these 3 pillars which we are discussing today. Let me emphasize that there are more risk factors we're discussing today in this 3. So it's the point is not to diagnose anyone. The point is to show that risk is not determined by only one single factor, but by their combination and interaction. And let me conclude that from pharmacology lab in Odessa to this research in Loughborough, still, my research question is the same. What does it actually take to restore physiological balance? How to restore this homeostatic balance by targeting and improve it by modifications, lifestyle modifications. And cardiometabolic health is not determined by one single factor, but by how they interact with each other over time. And these 3 interventions, diet, exercise, and sleep, they are not single independent interventions, they are systematic interventions. So the building evidence, how they work together, how they moderate each other, it's research work which is ahead. So thank you very much for your attention, and I will be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you for listening to the podcast of Loughborough University's Institute of Advanced Studies. A quick reminder about how to stay connected. You can find us on Blue Sky, LinkedIn and Instagram, and you can also watch the presentations on YouTube. The podcast is available on all the major platforms. Please download, share, and most importantly, subscribe. See you next time.